You may have noticed the price of goods and services increasing recently, and that's due to inflation. This is Into Investments with Humphrey Yang, and I'm here with Andrew. Today we're having a conversation about how inflation affects your investments. Andrew, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm originally from the Bay Area.
Oh, nice.
I moved down to LA for school, studied electrical engineering because my parents made me. I buy, sell, and collect sneakers a lot. I have a ton of sneakers, probably more than one person should own. And I work at a high-end restaurant.
For your sneaker reselling, tell me a little bit more about that. Like, how did you get into that?
Okay.
Are you making money off of it?
Okay, sneakers is one of those things I've been into since like second grade. I watched Space Jam, I love Michael Jordan. Ever since then, I've been collecting sneakers when I had the money. After high school and college, I started working a lot, so I was able to build up some funds and buy more sneakers. The reselling didn't really come into play until a little bit later, but recently I've made a decent side hustle amount of money.
Interesting. So what's the most you've ever made on a sneaker flip?
The retail was about 160 with tax, about 170. I resold that one for, I think like 1,500.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like a 10X.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not huge money, but it's pretty good. It's decent.
Just curious, do you know how inflation is calculated?
No.
Okay.
Zero.
Would you like to learn?
Sure,
Okay.
why not? I'm here with you. You're the expert, so.
So inflation is actually calculated with what's called CPI. It's the Consumer Price Index.
Okay.
And the government basically takes a basket of goods, right? So a basket being, you know, they'll buy the same staples every single month.
Okay.
So they'll buy, you know, groceries, different types of produce. They'll put gas in there.
Okay.
They might put some clothing, apparel, stuff like that. But they'll use the same benchmark every single month, and they add up how much it costs.
Okay.
And at the end of the month, they'll do that the next month as well. And then they compare the cost difference. So if the basket of goods one month costs $100,
Right.
but then the next month that same basket of goods costs $105, we can say that inflation was an extra $5 that month, which is around 5%.
Okay.
And as of recent, inflation has been running closer to 5 to 7% year over year.
That's not very nice.
It's not very nice. Now, I guess the other thing I wanted to ask you about is, do you know how inflation might affect your investments?
No idea. I've YouTubed and Googled some stuff.
Yeah.
And I've heard that you should have certain accounts that beat the rate of inflation, I guess, or high savings accounts or something. But I don't know how that's going to affect my investments.
Yeah, so if you just have money sitting in a savings account, it's effectively losing, you know, purchasing power relative to inflation.
Correct.
So ideally, you are investing in things that are at least on par with inflation, or at least somewhat beating it a little bit. Energy sector performs really well during inflationary times, as well as commodities. So those are things like gold, oil, iron, silver, copper. Those types of things perform really well, as well as collectibles. So sneakers might actually perform really well.
So I'm ahead of the game.
Yeah, it's almost like because as the value or as more money is in the economy, they're still chasing the same number of goods. And if you have a collectible, that collectible is not inflating as well, right? There's a finite number of sneakers.
Produced.
So people are just going to be willing to pay more for your sneaker collection.
Interesting. Okay.
So how are you actually just allocating your investments these days?
It's kind of difficult. I do have some savings, but I think my first immediate goal is buying a house for myself. And I don't know how the mortgage is going to go. I want to put my money towards mortgage versus rent and losing it every day.
Inflation affects mortgages in an interesting way because inflation is the decrease of your purchasing power, right?
Decrease, okay.
Right, because inflation means there's more money in the economy, your dollar is worth a little bit less.
Right.
But if you lock in a mortgage, let's say a 30-year mortgage, right? Now all of a sudden, let's say you owe $400,000. Well, if inflation is really high, it's actually making your mortgage a lot cheaper.
Because it locks you in at it.
Because it locks you in. And so that's one kind of advantage of inflation with real estate is that it can actually cost you less in purchasing power to actually finish off that mortgage.
Right.
If you lock in let's say a 30-year mortgage. Right?
Okay. Is that normal?
That's probably not normal. The Federal Reserve likes to target a 2% inflation rate.
Okay.
And right now inflation is running around 5 to 7% year over year.
What is that due to? Like the high rise in inflation rate?
Yeah, so right now inflation is caused by a few factors. Number one, supply chain issues. Now you have the same number of goods, or actually fewer number of goods, but the same demand. The second thing that happened during the pandemic was that a lot more economic stimulus was put into the economy.
Right.
So we actually increased our money supply, I think, in the United States by 25% or 30% forever, right?
Yeah.
And so now there's more dollars chasing the same amount of goods. And so you have this natural slow rise of more money in the economy, but the same number of goods. So what happens is people are willing to pay more for the same thing. But that doesn't mean it's still not a bad time to start investing, because an investment is still going to, at least like we talked about your sneakers earlier, it's still going to appreciate in value against the rate of inflation.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So sometimes the IRS with inflation will actually adjust tax brackets as well.
Okay.
And like I don't have all the answers when it comes to IRS guidelines and tax brackets, but you can go to TurboTax and just ask a tax expert online, live, one-on-one, so it's pretty easy.
Cool.
Yeah.
It was kind of rough because my regular tax lady, I couldn't go to her, I couldn't schedule an appointment. I tried to call someone, I tried to call her, she's like, no, I'm just not doing it. So I tried to do it online, which I did last year, but I had no idea how to do like deductions, or I kind of had to just wing it. I called a couple of buddies that are more knowledgeable, but even still, I wasn't really sure how to input everything and do it properly.
Yeah, and I think that is a misconception that, you know, you have to use TurboTax only for tax season, but those experts are available like year round, and you can really just reach them whenever. So that's kind of cool. And so you said with some of the profit you have been investing. Tell me a little bit more about like some of the investments you've been making.
It's interesting. When I was 13, I had a little school project and we got to follow stocks and quote unquote invest, fake money. But I asked my mom to open up an account for me at Fidelity, I think, and it was like a mutual fund or something. But with that money, I just kept putting it in as I worked overtime. And as I got more money from side hustles, sneakers, I would just kind of set some aside each time. But my knowledge is still fairly new, very beginner, I'd say.
Got it. How much would you say you allocate towards investments every single month?
Month to month, it differs. If I make more sneaker sales, I mean, I have my regular job, but I try to do my regular cost of living. I'll put some into savings, and then any extra, some buffer that I can allocate towards that, I will put it towards that. But it definitely goes up and down. Honestly, I came in here super blank slate. I had no idea where to go. I didn't even know the inflation rate thing and all that. So I really appreciate your help.
For sure. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you. I think I learned a lot. So.
And I had a great time chatting with you.
Thanks. So. Yeah, it was super fun.
I partnered with Intuit TurboTax to answer your questions about investments so that you can fuel your financial potential. We'll be talking about crypto, NFTs, stocks, capital gains, and a whole lot more. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and also comment any questions that you might have.